call the meeting to order. All those here, Linda,
Here.
Dan,
I am here.
Elizabeth on the phone,
Just wanted to.
Scott and Kristen. Scott, you there?
I'm here, Peter.
All right, great. Terrific. So with 3, we get egg roll. All right, so proposed, what we do is walk through DCAB's proposed edits. And so to start off in a broad stroke, I would propose accepting all of Paul's edits for page 1. And unless you have any, unless people have questions around that.
I have one question on page 1, other than I would concur to accept all of his comments. Under Town of Concord, request for proposals, concept planning, economic and market analysis, and proposed zoning. Only wanting to ask the question, do we want to elevate
Yes,
the element of market analysis?
I would recommend accepting that proposal.
I want to make sure I heard, because I think that's, that's related to another comment I just heard. Can you say, I'm sorry.
Sorry, so I just was wondering, given you had said that their key focus was to make sure we had adequate market analysis, did we want to change under the heading Town of Concord, request for proposals, concept planning, comma, economic and market analysis, comma, and proposed zoning? Did we want to elevate it to that extent or not?
I agree, yeah.
So we've got agreement here. You okay with it? Scott, just give us a thumbs up. All right, good.
Yeah,
All right.
that was one of the pieces, sorry, that was one of the, actually pieces of feedback, interestingly enough, you said it, that I heard from VHB, that we may even want to accelerate that economic analysis, involve them earlier in the process as we're beginning to ideate, just to have that continuity and involve.
That's great. So Shannon, accept all of Paul's changes for page 1.
Did we all agree to that? Excepting I did.
I did.
Okay.
You okay with, yeah, okay, Scott's okay with that. All right. Moving on to page 2.
The only issue is, again, this whole thing about MIPA and confirming that, all the other things seem, just, formatting, so.
So, yeah, we accept all of the formatting changes and, the MIPA, I think we just, keep it in there, the idea being that we wanna have the information that's being collected by the consultant be transferable to the MIPA process. And that may mean they may need to document a few more things as they're developing, our proposal. So I would recommend keeping that in. And we can explain it if when there are questions from the consultant respondents. You okay with that, Scott, for page 2? All right, so all the rest of page 2 accept. All right, moving on to page 3. So Paul had a number of questions here about specific studies. Under historic preservation, I know that Ann Forbes did a draft National Register eligibility, or did a National Register eligibility study for the properties at the prison. I've seen it. I think I sent it to Shannon. Maybe if we can find that and reference that specific Ann Forbes prison property study, because it calls out all of them. the Cummings House, the
Oh.
Victorian, the apartments on Commonwealth Avenue. Those are the big three that are called out.
Okay, it's called the Ann Forbes.
Yeah, and Ann McCarthy Forbes is a historic preservation consultant who worked for the Historic Commission back when, oh, probably 15, 20 years ago, when they first talked about doing the rotary flyover. And so she did that work on behalf of the Historic Commission.
I'm looking at Paul's comment, is that your approach to addressing his point?
Yeah, he wanted us to be sort of more specific.
Yeah.
And I think we dig out the name of that and included it as a reference.
I did work on some more language if
Oh,
you
good.
wanted to.
Yeah, sure.
So I can read that to
Yeah.
you, and I'm
Yeah.
happy. If it doesn't go, I don't have a sense of ownership here,
I
so
don't have a dog in that house.
I don't, but it is a little thin, so I thought, okay. So I did not originate a lot of this, okay. So historic preservation, assess the historic structures and archaeological assets on site and investigate options for their preservation, protection, restoration, and development. Investigate statewide and national best practices for the redevelopment of similar sites. Develop an accurate, inclusive, and multi-layered narrative of the past, embracing complexity and acknowledging the regional and community stories of the MCI Concord Prison and the reformatory's history to advance social justice. Encourage preservation to support affordable housing, local economic development, cultural preservation, and history for future generations.
It's beautiful. My favorite.
All right, send chapter 37 over to Shannon.
But I think it's clear about
It is.
how these relate to one another. So,
Scott,
Scott,
I
when
have a
you,
question about, you brought up affordable housing. How, could you read that sentence again?
Yeah, it's sort of, there's this like,
trying to connect it.
yeah, and there's this kind of move to talk about for historic protection as something that is valuable and environmentally and in terms of economic development. And, you know, like preserve things to, because some of the housing, if it's there, which it really isn't, is affordable, you know, that's, so there is trying to connect the history to these other goals.
So there is the duplex on Com Ave, which would translate perfectly into like, you know, you could have one affordable, one market, or, you know.
Okay.
So it's encourage, preserve the wording, because if you want to play around with that, encourage preservation to support affordable housing, local economic development, cultural preservation, and history for future generations.
What I like about it, and maybe it's just because it's on top of mind, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. And was talking about the MCI thing and the history that's there. She's actually involved in victim rights attorney. And her comment was, geez, I hope you don't do what the Liberty Hotel did.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's kind of, I think, maybe, again, maybe I'm focused on that and someone else may not interpret it, but I think that's why I like it. So,
Okay, so we'll include that, but I'm still holding out hopes for Liberty 2 for the Victorian prison admin house, but that's just me.
I think it's a good reuse.
But, so I say we accept that. You okay with Linda's wording, Scott?
Yeah, that was great, Linda. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so,
Yeah.
I have a couple. more.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
okay, then we'll swing down to, task, 1.
Well, wait, what about this community cohesion and interaction? That's kind of a question from Megan, I guess, is this regional importance that he brought up.
Right, I
I
actually
didn't
think,
have anything to say there, just,
Yeah, my thought on that was we turn that one over to the board of select people. To respond to that.
No, I understand the concern, but it just seems like, how do you involve other towns? Are they, now you involving them with community meetings, or are they just participating in our zoning? Or how do you-
Public meetings are open to the public regardless of where the public lives. It's just when it comes to the rezoning vote, you have to be a Concord citizen.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but we have the representative from MAPC here too.
Keith Bergman.
Thank you.
Chief, yeah,
Yes, so I don't know if that does it, Scott, but it is a conduit theoretically where those things could go back and forth.
yeah, there's a magic sub-region that includes all of our surrounding communities and, you know, I think it should come up there. We can ask Keith to bring it up there, and try and solicit feedback,
Yeah.
more formally. But I think it needs to be, that's a select board thing, because you're giving other communities to a certain degree, some type of leverage over a Concord process. And generally, I have no problem with that. It's just that you need to walk into it with your eyes wide open.
Does the select board have time to put together a decision on this prior to this going out?
I think it's something that could be added on later. I'm not sure it has to be in a document. We just need to, you know,
Okay, I
just
agree.
be welcoming and generous
Yes,
for,
I agree.
for comments, on a regional basis.
I would argue that it would be requiring the consultant to do things where we have no control over their ability to accomplish it. You know, like we can't tell someone, oh yeah, you gotta go and work with acting. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
not,
So the way it's written is,
I think it's fine,
I think
okay,
it's fine.
yeah,
yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it as is and leave that unanswered and maybe ask the select board how they would like to handle it, but our recommendation is to leave it as is. All right, so down on to ask, let's see.
1.3, assemble and.
Yeah, so there was the regional question. And then there's I'm happy with sort of the preamble language changes before the bullets. Anybody have any issues on that? Under the underground utilities analysis. Yeah, there was a question about that. I would put, at the end of that bullet, for possible reuse or conversion to geothermal network. So that they're looking at reusing the underground utilities basically to the extent possible.
But do we have a document for
We
that
don't have a
now?
document.
Okay, so then
That's something that
yeah.
they're probably gonna have to prepare.
Okay,
But there will be engineering studies from Department of Corrections that will probably be in various stages of accuracy that will need to be gathered by the team.
so just so I'm clear, so Paul's raising the question on that particular bullet, analysis of existing underground. Saying, how are we gonna capture that, right?
Yeah, that'll probably be from DC's Department of Corrections
Their
Engineering.
facilities guys.
engineering plans, but
I assume that was being collected now with their consultants going out from DCAM, no?
It sounds like not, Scott, it sounds like, I think what, if I understand correctly, if I'm tracking this. Peter's saying that information may exist within the facilities department of the DOC. And it sounds like Paul's making it clear that they weren't planning to capture that,
Surprising.
so,
So how do they know what's there for any kind of abatement if it's underground?
it's their 21E study.
well, that's a phase one,
Yeah,
Well, you gotta know you gotta know where the utilities are.
yeah, I agree. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're not capturing that. I
Yeah.
know that there's a lot of sensitivity on the state's part about, broadcasting, whatever the results of that are. Both, if they're trying to protect themselves and the town. Because you just don't know what's you're gonna encounter. But I don't know how that, I think the idea is eventually that becomes the responsibility of the developer.
But how can the developer put a number in if they don't know what's there?
It's a great question, Scott. If I were the developer, I'd be very anxious about this, but I'm not, I mean, I can bring it up again on Friday when I meet.
I thought that this is what they were supposed to be doing leading up to the developer RFP.
So that may fall under additional
Okay.
documents from CAM as available.
Sorry, I'm asking a very crazy question.
But so what I would do is I would accept the rest of the changes there, leave the, leave the ones that are still somewhat in question. So
Well,
analysis,
but there is none, so how can we put it under assemble and review documents?
right, so that would be under
We would have to.
additional documents from DCAM. We could put expected to be generated by Department of Corrections.
Well, I guess you could put additional documents from DCAM. and
Yeah,
the
such
Department of
as,
Corrections as available.
Yeah.
But
Is that what you're thinking? Just you wanna somehow make it clear that.
yeah, I mean, I wanna make it clear that it's not coming from us, but it
Yeah,
would be
'cause
from Department of Corrections.
Paul also said, please don't include specific not yet published DCAM documents in the RFP language.
So let's contact Paul and ask him if they're going to, and we can ask him, I'll probably be on this afternoon. We
Yeah.
can ask him about that specific utility infrastructure on the
Yeah.
site document. So we've already discussed historic preservation studies. And
do you want to put in the specific study they did?
Yeah, the Ann McCarthy.
yeah, the Ann McCarthy Forbes historic National Register nomination that she prepared for the Town of Concord Historic Commission.
And then the endangered species background information.
So that is,
Resources. but
yeah, well, yeah,
Those documents.
yeah.
So I don't know.
Elizabeth has her hand up.
it won't be, they have to call the Natural Heritage and find out if there's anything on the site. And that's something the consultant can do.
Okay.
Or, they can check with Natural Heritage. It's to prevent the listing of endangered species and so that people go onto it and look to remove them prior to the development. Which has happened in the past. And then accept that additional, you can just leave that there.
You wanna acknowledge Elizabeth? She has her hand up.
Yeah, just from, Concord Natural Resources and, the state. You guys and gals okay with that, those changes?
Did you want to see what Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, you have any?
It's just a minor detail, the historic preservation study. Ann Forbes assisted, it is actually the Concord Historical Commission's National Register nomination application.
Okay, great, so we can just, including the Town of Concord's National Register nomination.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Town of Concord Historical Commission,
Yeah,
National Registered nomination.
great. Thank you for clarifying that. I've seen the study, I've read the study. And I just put it together with Ann, because, you know, I've used her for stuff in the past, but I didn't have the exact title, so thank you. All right, so then we accept the additional documents from DCAM as available.
And then under the deliverable,
Yep.
I think he said that that could be rewritten, and so I put some words together, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that was the existing conditions report / memo / write-up.
Right,
Yeah, you have language for that?
I have,
Good.
this is an impossible.
So this would be after the written proposal for community engagement, there would be a second deliverable. Or did you
Well,
wrap it all together
I
into
think
one?
it's under the discovery phase, so, so it would be after the discovery phase. And before the task 2, the,
Right, no, just I'm looking at here.
Yes,
There are
for his.
two, there would be 2 deliverables. One is the written proposal and the second is the existing conditions report.
yes, so I put 1, a written existing conditions report, which may serve as an introduction or appendix to the vision planning process report.
Great,
Then I put task 3 below.
okay,
Then I said 2, summary materials and presentation format for use in other contexts such as community presentations.
great,
And then I put 3, a written proposal for an inclusive community engagement process to create a development framework or conceptual plan
yeah,
with analysis of scenarios and their fiscal impacts to inform the developer solicitation process.
excellent. So the one that we have in yellow will become deliverable 3 and we add the other 2. And you'll send those over
I'll
to
just-
Shannon. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so moving into the next task 2. And add the date after, after the date add phase 1. Because I think Paul makes a good point that the communications plan is gonna continue after June 30. So just after that, add phase 1. Yeah.
Okay.
And then go down into task 2. And I didn't have any problems with the task 2 stuff.
Yeah, he had some comments here.
About breaking it up.
Yeah, it says these deliverables could be rewritten as a series of subtasks.
Where was that?
His just general comment
It's
under
a comment,
deliverables
yeah.
for
He
phase
didn't
2.
like suggest track changes, it was just a comment on the side. But I don't know if,
That would be something I would have to defer to John Boynton.
yeah, it would just have to be sort of rewritten again.
Yeah, but, you know, right now I'm okay with accepting it as is pending any input from John when he's here this
Okay,
afternoon.
so I'm just gonna leave this for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the other question about who's going to incur the hosting cost, like under the website.
Yeah.
And that I think is, we need input from the town, how that would be
Right.
handled. I don't think we could,
Yeah,
so I don't know.
So is the town paying for hosting or is that something the consultant is gonna do? That's a Mark answer during this afternoon session.
He's not gonna be.
Then he can't answer it.
Uh, Well, Megan.
Maybe
I,
Megan can.
yeah, Megan maybe can, I would be surprised if we would ask the consultant to incur the cost.
Yeah,
That's just my gut instinct, though.
that sounds reasonable to me too.
We'll follow up.
Okay. All right, down to task 3. So here he has questions around the word leverage. So, I think I sort of put, maintain ongoing community engagement around instead of the word
What did you
leverage.
say, maintain?
Yeah.
Or just, I mean, isn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, I interpreted this to be the idea of being used, utilized. It's founded on.
Okay, yeah,
Take it-
I'm okay with that.
Take advantage of or something.
Yeah.
I said analyze, so we all have a
All
better.
right,
word.
utilize, I like utilize.
Utilize, yeah, that's good.
Utilize,
That's a good word.
okay.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right. Okay, and then we've got, the ones in the second paragraph, I'm happy accepting those. You okay with that, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense.
Those were all sort of add
Yes.
language. in.
Fine.
All right, so moving down, let's see, we had 3.3, Paul had some comments on 3.3. Which I think had to do with,
Yeah, phase 2, community engagement.
yeah. And maybe what we add is, a second phase of community engagement, is required for the, zoning, component in task 6.
So that was one of the feedback, to your point, that was one of the feedback I got, and I think this fairly confident that they can be ambitious, but can get through the first piece. But clearly the zoning and stuff.
Yeah, so I would just put at the end of this, a second phase of community engagement, is required to carry the project through, acceptance of zoning and land use controls at annual town meeting. Okay. Good. Next page of my rushed notes. All right, and then accepting the balance of changes in task 3. Somehow I get down to 4.5. So, the deliverable, accepting the balance, and let's discuss these, because
Yeah,
they
there's
have
some
different.
comments here.
That's a lot of things in one deliverable comment.
I did have some wording if you want to try it. I had 3 deliverables, but under the
Well,
first,
there are 6 deliverables, but
I had deliver a written comprehensive vision and scenario land use report in consultation with the MCI Concord Advisory Board and DCAM.
okay.
Then point A, utilize the written narrative describing all existing conditions, assets, issues, especially the historic aspects of the property from task 1 above. The report should be broad in scope and clearly state the key topics of importance to the town in a vision statement of each option. C, deliver visioning and scenario land use maps of various programmatic and circulation options for the site, showing overlays over existing conditions and boundaries. D, incorporate a summary of land use scenarios, including programmatic elements, market for various uses, square footage, open space, municipal impacts, probable tax revenue and land values, and potential for achieving carbon neutrality by 2040. And then I have number 2, present 3 final vision and scenario land use options to the town of Concord Select Board, MCI Concord Advisory Board, and DCAM. 3, develop a PowerPoint presentation summary of the land scenarios for potential use in presentations to various stakeholder groups, incorporating a variety of visual tools. But I don't.
Okay, I like it.
I did, yeah.
Scott, What do you think?
Yeah.
All right, so, the master editor strikes again.
Was that AI?
It's LAI.
Not Siri, it's Linda.
Just kidding. I was just kidding. That was well written.
Too funny,
Okay. Continuing on.
that's all.
Okay,
All right, task 4. I like the and feasibility assessment, so I like the under range of market and cost assumptions. And I like changing it from highest and best use to optimal use. That were suggested by Paul.
optimal and best use.
No, optimal, on the optimal use of the land. Highest and best use has definitions attached to it that may muddy things.
An interesting term.
All right. And what was it, 4.5, okay, yep, and we on to task 5, so here. I put in, add a new task 6.3 and renumber. And, or 5. New task 6.3 and renumber, which would be prepare a form-based code guidebook.
So what is he asking?
So under the final zoning and map amendments, I would put add as a task preparing a citizen's guide to the form-based code.
So you would take task 5.2 and make it,
No, so well, 5.2 is to do a create a citizen's guide. But it could be just a citizen's guide to the zoning amendment.
Do we know if something like this exists already? I mean, in other circumstances that we.
So Paul asked, have we done anything like this? And I think you did a decent job with MBTA.
no, I mean, nothing that in terms of explain. I
Yeah.
asked Elizabeth, do we have anything that we ever did to explain zoning?
Oh,
I don't,
for the MBTA communities?
I don't think so, but Elizabeth would know,
I mean,
well, we have, guide to zonings, anything, like.
I mean, we had, like little one-page info things created for
Yeah.
MBTA communities.
Right.
But,
We could do that, I mean. What,
yeah, or does something exist, like a primer or
Somebody-
zoning for dummies or something like that?
yeah, I don't think we have to.
I mean, is Paul's comment that,
He's asking for an example. To be attached to make the task more defined for the consultant.
Right, he's wondering if we've done this before, it looks like too, so I mean, I'd rather not pay for that if something exists out there that, I mean, I understand the point that zoning, it would be helpful to, we wanna make sure people understand how zoning works. But,
Yeah, I think it's actually more focused on the, form-based code, actually.
Right,
yeah, this is, I mean, 5.2 is more if explaining what form-based code is, and I mean, there's a lot of I think it's gonna be important for the consultant to have those little one-page things. But yeah, I mean, we can provide examples.
Okay, well, that's sort of what they're looking for. And under deliverables, I think that should, that should be a deliverable, under the final zoning map and zoning amendments. There should also be a form-based code guide, that's a deliverable,
Understanding zoning.
or understanding form-based code and zoning. That should be.
Guide to, and I think that,
Yeah, I mean, the deliverables are just written documents resulting from task 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, right?
Well, under 6, yeah, he says, Paul says under 6, repeat, the final zone, repeat the italicized, deliverables from above, so prepare final zoning map so final zoning map is a deliverable. Language for town meeting warrant is a deliverable, and understanding zoning and form-based code handout is a deliverable. Or handout.
So 5 is really the draft and 6 is the final. And
Yeah.
each of those
Um,
sets similar deliverables.
Yeah. I was looking at that too.
Yeah,
So. Yeah, so Shannon, what you just wrote under that deliverable is in the wrong spot.
That's just where Peter was saying he wanted it in the last conversation having here, but right, I sort of felt like it should go with 5.2 because that's where we put create citizen guides.
Yeah,
Right, it
so
should be
under that
about what-
deliverable should be the understanding zoning and form-based code handout, citizen handout or citizen guide. Yeah, so understanding zoning and form-based code citizen guide. And then the question when you scroll up a little bit more just so I can see, so
Yeah.
the create citizen guides. So I don't know, Shannon, can I share my screen real quick?
Yep, let me stop sharing.
So like, this is the comprehensive, FAQ that we put together for MBTA communities, and it goes through and it talks about, like all the different things about communities and what would be provided and, why, when, where, so, this is a pretty detailed and, robust thing, but
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I think that
something
should be-
similar to this, because, there is gonna be, a why, a when, what, how much development, what's gonna be allowed, there
Yeah.
could be a lot of different things. So this could be provided as another example.
Be great.
That's great. I remembered seeing that. You guys, such a good job.
Elizabeth.
So we're adding that to attachments, you said, Elizabeth?
I mean, you can as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's what Paul had suggested, so.
I personally would rather less words, more graphics if
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
we're not, but most people
No.
can't.
Yeah,
But it's a great place to start, explain what we're trying to,
yeah.
very, very thorough.
All right, so for deliverables under zoning, we should, Paul suggests reiterating final text amendments, final zoning amendments. Zoning map amendments.
Yes. That's the difference, it's the verbiage versus the maps, right?
Yeah,
Want me to say zoning bylaw amendments?
yes.
Mhm.
And then you can put text. Text and numbers. Great. And then, let's see, the rest of page 8, I didn't have a problem with accepting his proposed changes. You okay with those, Scott?
Yep.
All right.
Now. What is, how does the schedule change now that procurement? Is this online with procurement?
I'm hoping, and I haven't discussed this with Paul yet or anyone else here, but when I was thinking about it on the drive over, I was thinking I'd love for it to get released on Friday this week if possible.
Yeah.
So that puts us back essentially a week, I think. That's about right. I think it was gonna go at 11/29.
Yeah, I would say we probably have to try to edit these dates by a week. If we're issuing a week later than what we
Yeah.
anticipated. We heard, in the exchanges that we had with procurement, before Thanksgiving, they said that they were gonna touch base with us today on, like how soon they think that they would be able to get it out. Hopefully it can be issued on Friday, and then I would say I can just plug and play dates 1 week later than what is on here.
I'm okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay. We don't have to change the June 30th
No,
or November 3rd changes dates.
No,
So we put spring 2026. Unless the town already knows what date we're doing town meeting on.
we do not.
All right, so spring.
you just
All
have
right.
to, okay, yeah.
Submission requirements. I didn't have,
That has to be, procurement has to be, are they
yeah,
working on that right now, or are they, what's?
Yeah. Sorry.
so page 9, he suggested changing 5 to 10 years. That's under, if we get down, I think, the next page.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and accept anything up there, advisory boards, stuff like that.
So,
This for 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I would just say. I understand that. I would think if I were reading through these things and someone submitted something 10 years ago, I probably.
We would have a question.
But
about it.
that's
Yeah,
just like
right,
me.
exactly.
I think DCAM operates a little slower, a longer time than we do, but I hear you.
Fair enough,
Yeah, no, I hear you, that's a good point. So I don't,
whatever.
yeah, I don't know that we even need to let them.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
And then the other changes they've got their demonstrated ability, accept those, unless anyone has any questions. And then down here, I didn't have problems with those,
Just following through on comments made about.
Mhm.
we were gonna add Shannon, Elizabeth, we're gonna add that, document you should just share with us about the MBTA Communities Act.
Yeah, that FAQ.
handout. FAQ handout, yeah.
Great.
Got it.
Then I think the only other one, because we struck the other specific studies that DCAM was working on, the bullet point above was additional DCAM studies
As they become
as
available.
available, so I think we just have to put that on here too. I'll double check all of the languages.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice work.
And then there was something, there was a date that was in there that was June without need on page 11.
Not really.
It was under dates, so probably up a little.
What, and what is the issue here? Oh,
It was June without an E.
Oh,
John. It was
John.
due in John. Yeah, there it is, task 3, John 2025.
Yeah, they're all that way.
yeah, they are.
They were.
Got it.
Then you gotta do March and all that too, so.
Yeah,
Do we, really?
I'm just. I'm gonna leave it like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm, in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna try to implement some of the things that Linda spoke during this, so then we can try to review all of that cleanly in the advisory board meetings.
okay, while you're doing that, David, you wanna talk about the budget
Yeah.
stuff that we
So
made?
Scott's still here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So Scott, I heard back from, and I'm not sure who, I don't think anyone else on the advisory board is on the call, right?
No,
Okay, I did hear back like minutes before, I came into this meeting from, my contact at VHB, and they did put some time and thought into it. And I'll just give you the headline, basically,
What is the?
Vanessa Hangen Breslin, they're
They're a consulting firm.
they're consulting for very large that potentially will be, submitting on it.
Okay.
And they looked at, basically their approach was to look at, within their organization, comps of similar studies. That included the stakeholder outreach piece. That is absolutely a thing that's a little bit of a wild card. Okay, and that makes sense to me, because they don't know how, but be that as it may. And then I shared the comment about pulling the economic analysis forward into the earlier phases, just to have that, a little bit like the zoning, just to have that input, right? Everyone hanging on?
Yeah,
All in, their estimate was $125,000 to $150,000.
Love it.
Me too.
That's
So I did
wow.
not, I bit my tongue. Fortunately, I was on the phone. I didn't go like, really? I said, okay. So yeah, that was nice to hear. And then they also said, except for the town meeting zoning phase, they felt confident. It will be challenging, it will be aggressive, but they felt like they could get through it. And by 6:30, the key thing is to get started and to maintain our timeline. So, and I had a pretty lengthy, I didn't share anything, written. I had a pretty lengthy conversation with them in terms of like high level, here's the task we're trying to do. And we probably spent an hour with 3 other people that are involved in these kind of studies, so when they ask good questions. I don't have the notes with me now, but I have the notes from them. So I feel like they understood it. I don't feel like we're, missing some of our scope, but, the devil's in the details. And that's it.
So I had one question. I think I had a sort of panic attack that, Shannon's, managed me through.
You are a full service person.
yeah.
She is, does everything. And that had to do with the issue that came up from the very initial meeting that we had at the library. There's kind of some advocacy for having a contest, like a design contest to kind of get things coordinated with the local, scene of planners, academic group, et cetera. It's like-
Local to Concord,
Well,
local
local,
to
regional,
region, okay.
I had the impression, or,
Yeah.
or maybe even national in scope, like, put this design competition out there for your best planning students and, there will be honorarium, I don't know, some number. There would be numbers here, and let's just see what comes in, you know, because this could be stimulating for the community and maybe have some thoughtful and challenging responses. You just don't know until you put things out to a different sort of generation and a different group than we are. And I sort of had felt, well, gee, that went by the wayside. Upon reflection, I also thought, well, maybe this is a little bit like the ULI.
It is.
And it's just like the time has passed for that. It probably would be something that would confuse the process rather than contribute to it. So, but we did put something about ULI in here.
Yeah.
And maybe we should put something similarly. I also feel that whoever gets this as a planning group is probably gonna fight both of these ideas. Like, you know, again, it will confuse their process. But, you know, maybe they're open to more ideas than otherwise. So I didn't feel like we had, as a group, really like the final discussion on that. But that this document reflects a little, you know, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So, yeah, so I just wanted to bring it up.
Scott will comment on that. That's Scott.
No, I think it's I like the idea. I just think this group is gonna have a short bit of time to put all this together and they can't be distracted. I think they're gonna come up with a plan, like a bubble plan, visionary plan for the different areas. There probably is a good opportunity for a contest after we figured out the actual plan for the site. Then they can put buildings to those areas. You can't put buildings to those areas now because we're just figuring out a very two-dimensional. And I think maybe later on, before we get the developer RFP, it might be fun for student groups, high schools, middle schools, or community to be part of some fun things before the RFP goes out. But I think that's just my personal timing.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think my concern is who's gonna do it?
Yeah.
You know, are we gonna have another consultant do it? Are we gonna do that? Because, yeah, it sounds like a fun idea, but then I thought of what are all the logistics and how would you do it and structure it? And this group is very capable, but I don't think can put the man hours to
It's
to
a lot,
do
it's a
it.
big effort.
Want to drop something in here or not? So
So
yeah, that's.
I don't know that I'm gonna answer the question directly, but I agree, I think with, if I understood Scott correctly, that the value of that effort, in particular when you're dealing with the professional end of it, is having a clear understanding of the givens. And I feel like what's gonna happen in this process is the givens are gonna get better defined. And so, and I think what concerns me is, and I think people touched on it, is if you do it without the benefit of that, you can easily get a lot of excitement about an idea that has no possibility of ever happening. So the risk of disappointment and then the diverse vision is high. And so that would be my concern. I don't think I've answered your question though, because I think there is an opportunity to get some creative input on it. And I think with the concern that I articulated and Scott sort of mentioned, I think there is a moment to do it. It still comes back to your point. Who's gonna manage it and how's it gonna get managed? Is that, you know, because you don't want it to feel like this is just window dressing. You want it to be, you know, real. If you're gonna do it. So I don't know, it's a question that, because whether it's now or it's a now thing.